Somebody said the answer is 30. Somebody said the answer is 30. Who else have a counter opinion to this? Should we go with 30?
Is it 42?
Sorry?
Okay, do we are we supposed to use the order of operators? Like, we should add A to B and then to A, and then now we minus B.
Okay, let's do it this way. A is what? A is
15
sorry, A is 50, yeah?
plus 12.
Plus, what am I typing? Plus, yeah? Plus
Plus
12,
12.
Abby?
Yeah, that is
Minus
27
12
plus
plus
15.
15. Okay, so
27 plus 15.
all right, so the let's do it this way. Let's say 15. Let's put this guy in brackets and
Be that.
let's keep it very simple. Okay. So we remove the ones that are brackets that are how will I put it? Let's take the common term. Mathematically speaking, let's take the common term. So if we carry the common term, this one will be 15 plus 15 plus what am I doing? Okay, plus 12 minus 12. All right, so we already know the answer from here, yeah? This simple mathematics. So 15 plus 15 is 30 plus 12 minus 12 is 0. So 30 plus 12. 30 plus 0 is 30. So this is the answer, yeah? Okay, so that one is settled. Do we understand this simple mathematics? Okay, so this operator is working on this operator. Understand? If okay, let's even do it this way. Plus 12 plus b minus b plus b minus b is 0. Okay, so left by a plus a, which is 15. Understand? So if you come in from there, plus 12 minus 12 is will give us 0. Left with 15 and 15, which will give us 30 as well. So this one, a modulus b is what? Plus 5. A modulus b is what? If you divide 15 by 12, it will
8.
give us eh?
8.
I said the answer is 8.
Oh, the answer is 8. Okay. All right. So this one, the answer is what?
17.
Yeah.
B modulus A is what? Is 12. 12 plus 12 is what? 24. So
24.
that is it. Yeah. B modulus A is what?
Okay, I was using 5 where you put that B, sorry.
Okay. So this is our answer. All right. Yes, you have a question. Let me see. Okay, answer your question.
Please, I don't understand the number 5. The B modulus A.
All
Why
right.
is it
So
12?
if you carry your calculator, and then um write b modulus a. Okay, write 15 modulus, or 12 modulus 15. Yeah, 12 modulus 15. The answer is going to be 12. And if you add it to 12, it's going to be 24. You get it? I noticed something about modulus is that once a bigger number is dividing the smaller number, like if you are looking for the modulus of two numbers and the one on the right hand side, the one on the left hand side, if the one on the right hand side is bigger than the one on the left hand side, the one on the left hand side usually becomes the modulus of that expression of that stuff. You get? And just an observation. So that's the hack. So can we move on?
Yes,
So
sir.
sorry,
Thank
explain
you.
that B modulus A plus B.
I said that b modulus a, like if the number, if, okay,
No, like do it the mass way, like from scratch.
I said that b modulus a, b is 12, a is 15. B modulus a, I said, is 12. 12 plus 12 is 24. That's what I said.
How come 12 modulus 15 is 12? Because I'm getting
Okay.
12 modulus 15. I'm getting 1.8.
Okay. So let us thank God we have this thing here. We have a code here. Okay, so let's run this code. Was it this code I was having error? No, it wasn't this one. I want to. Okay, you guys are with me. All right, so let us see. Let's run this code and let me deploy and have modulus. So the first number is what? 12, yeah. The second one is 15, yeah. So if I calculate modulus, so you see that our modulus 12 modulus 15 is what? Guys, can you see my screen? 12 modulus 15 is what?
What I'm saying, where is the modulus, sir?
Look at where my mouse is. Where my mouse is. My mouse is circling the
No, I
answer.
mean like on the code. Where is it on the code?
This is the code. This is the code for calculating modulus.
Is it the A greater than B and?
No, this calculate modulo. And then we wrote a requirement yesterday to check if, so that the denominator will not be 0. All right, we are taking so much time on this, so are we okay? So we've seen that our guy here is 12. 12 plus 12 is 24. You understand? Like I said, when you are doing a modulo, okay, let's say for example, this is, let's say 15, and let's say this guy is 30, for example. Let's look for the modulo of these guys. You see, it's 15. So if a, you are looking for the modulo between a smaller number and a bigger number, if the bigger number is on the right hand side, or yes, on the right hand side, and the smaller number is on the left hand side, the modulo is usually the smaller number. You understand? Okay, so let's continue. Let's continue. So yesterday class, time is our last class, we talked about operators. For those of us that missed, and for those of us that network cut us short, I would say that we wrote a checker. We wrote a function that gets two numbers. So this function sets number one, and this other function sets number two altogether. And then this function, we wrote a function to add these two numbers together. We also wrote a function to calculate the modulus, whereas we wrote a checker to check if the modulo, the denominator is not zero, because we said that whenever you divide a number by zero, you are looking for if you have a number modulo zero, the contract is going to run into a panic error whereby it's going to use up your gas fee and it's going to revert your transaction, which is not good for your contract because your contract is going to be altered. So for us to check that users don't mistakenly put zero or operations don't lead to that, we write a checker so that when peradventure zero enters into the equation, our contract is going to say no, it cannot be zero, and then revert back to the initial state without altering our contracts. Okay, so we wrote this checker, we use the require keyword. So we're going to be using it more often as we go. And then we wrote compare. Okay, wrote compare and said if this is this, if that is that, and all that, and all that, and all that. We wrote an if statement to compare. I say we're trying to use the logical operators. Okay, these are the logical operators. These are comparison operators. Okay, these are comparison operators. This equal to and this greater than are comparison operators. This and is a logical operator. All right, and then this divide is an arithmetic operator. Okay, so you can see all the forms of operator we talked about here. Okay, so what this guy means is that number two cannot be equal to zero. Okay, so we wrote this checker, and then last class we talked about the difference between writing the difference between require and the if statement. Okay, so we said that the require does not change the state of the transaction, sorry, of the contract. Okay, why if statement changes the state of the contract even though even though it's not going to work, but it still changes the state of the contract. Like the contract is not going to run at all if the require is used, if require is used. But if is used, it's still going to run, but it's not going to give you an output because it does not um match the requirement of the if statement. Okay, so we said that in practice that require is more gas efficient. We said that require is more private than if statement. Okay, I said require is more efficient in handling errors, in managing error than the if statement. Nevertheless, if statement is still useful, but there are some limitations to if statements and require fix that limitation. So for example, you can write a check of for if statements without, but you can't write a error message with if statement. Okay, but you can write an error message and still write a condition with require. You understand? Without even writing a very long line of code, just one line. You do
So I
that.
won't see the screen anymore.
All right. Is it just her that is not seeing my screen? Who else is not seeing my screen?
I can see it now, but sometimes it usually go off, but I can still hear you. So I don't know if it's my network or your network that is doing that.
Okay, sure now.
I can see his screen. Praise, I think it's your network.
Okay, all right. So please just try and see my screen. Okay, please just try and see my screen. All right. So we can write a condition. Now you see this guy. This is this a function that checks before dividing. Now we can write a function and then for dividing numbers and then write requirements to check those so that users don't break. Okay, let's say for example, to check if the denominator is not bigger than the numerator. All right, we can write a requirement to check if the denominator is not bigger than the numerator. We can check the if the two numbers are not divisible. If the two numbers are not divisible, then the division will not go through. So if a user puts 5 divided by 2, you say cannot be divisible. All right. So we should run that as an assignment. So later on we'll give you as an assignment so you can go and check for that. You can just play with it. I don't know if there's any lapses or anything that's happened at last class that you're not clear of that you want me to to clear. All right, I'll gladly do that. Okay, so this is it. You can write a function for minus, you can write a function for multiplication. So we can say that for those of us that you're not in class, let me just write this function for, let me say, multiply num, that means multiply number, and then I'm not putting any inputs because we already declared our inputs, and so say public, and so say view, and we are returning units. Okay, so we can say return num1 times num2. So it's that simple. And then if I run this guy, it's going to run very well. And then if I deploy this contract, I will be able to multiply two numbers I'm going to be adding here. Let's say 20 times, okay, let me be reasonable, 50. So let me just store these guys and then multiply number. So 20 times 50 is giving me 1000. All right. Okay, so if I search for the modulus of this guy, get the modulus. Okay, the modulus is going to give me 20. If I add them together, it's going to give me 70. Okay, so if I can see my number one, I can see my number two. All right, so that is that for that. So we can also write a requirement. I write a requirement and say that can write a requirement and say that um num1 must be greater than 10. So for us to so for us to multiply, we can say that so let me sorry. My error has started again. Oh, sorry. So sorry. So sorry. Okay, um so when I deploy this guy now, so it's going to check something. It's going to check if my numerator is less than 10. So if I put 5 here, okay, and I put 20, all right, and then I share these guys multiply and I multiply, all right. Here did I write the require this thing? Okay, say less than 10, let it be greater than 10. All right, let me deploy this. All right, so this guy is 5 and this guy is 20. Okay, so if I multiply, you see that it did not give us an answer. It gave us this guy here. It gave us this one in here. It said number cannot be less than 10. You see that the code did not even run at all. So if I keep tapping this, it's not going to give me any answer. It's going to be reversing the contract and it's going to keep telling me this guy. So let me just open it and see. So I'll show you. It said revert. It said revert. The contract has been reverted to the initial state. Why? Reasons provided by the contract is that number one cannot be less than 10. You understand? So if we make this guy 50 and then we save and then we multiply again, you see that it goes through. All right. And then if we make this guy 2 and we multiply, you see that it didn't go through, it didn't run. It told us that number one cannot be less than 10. So you see the importance of requirements and why requirements is very, very important. Okay, so let me just remove this requirement. So we'll not be needing this requirement for multiplication. All right, so that was it for last class. And okay, so that was it for last class. So today we are going to be talking about constructors. So we're going to be talking about constructors and what are constructors? How do we use constructors in Solidity? Okay, so constructor is a special function using the constructor keyword to initialize state variable of a contract. All right. So I want us to put this in our back of our head. All right. I'm gonna first know how to record this function, how to write this set of
So come
functions.
again. What is
No, I'll come
construction?
back to that. I'll come back to that. Now, we know this function. We see how we wrote this function. I just want you to put this in the back of your mind as we go through constructor. So I said that constructor is a special function using the constructor keyword to initialize state variables of a contract. Okay, so the characteristic of a constructor is that a contract can only have one constructor. Okay, it's supposed to be one. Suppose a contract can only have one constructor. All right, so although probably in the nearest future, a contract will be able to call more than one constructors, but currently a contract can only call one constructor. All right. So A constructor code is executed once when a contract is created and it is used to initialize contract state. All right, so we're going to see that shortly how it works. And then thirdly, after a contract code is executed, the final code is deployed to the blockchain. This code includes public functions and code reachable through public functions. Okay, so constructor code or any internal method used only by constructor are not included in the final code. Okay, so a constructor can either be public or internal. But I noticed something in this new version is that constructors are written as what's this English word? I can't remember. But you don't have to um declare the visibility. You don't have to declare the visibility whether it's public or not public. You understand? You just have to write your constructor and leave the visibility, and then Solidity already know that it's going to be public. You understand? So any anything you are doing as your constructor is going to be public, because why you are calling the constructor, because if the constructor doesn't run, in fact, the input of the constructor is a key to running the contract. So if these inputs are not there, the contract is not running. So the contract runs by the data of the inputs. All right, so that's it with constructors. Okay. Okay, so I said that in case no constructor is defined, a default constructor is present in the contract. So every contract has a constructor. It's just that it's the default constructor. Okay, so every contract has a default constructor. All right, so what is the syntax of a constructor? How does a constructor work? How does the constructor work? What is the syntax of a constructor? So let me just write, let me say contracts, and let me call these students. All right, so we said that a constructor code is executed. No, that's not where I said it. Okay, so we said that the constructor function uses this constructor keyword to initialize state variables of a contract. Initialize state variables of a contract. So initialize state variables of a contract. So let's say we take into data, I will say string, call it name, and then we say to, and then we'll call this one age. All right, so we're going to write a constructor to get these two data. Okay, so we're going to write this how constructors are constructed or are written. Okay. Oh, my constructor is not correct. Okay, so all right, so this and this. All right, so this is how constructors are written. If I deploy this, it's going to run. If I deploy this contract, you see that my contract is running. Okay, if I save it, you see that I don't have any error, but see how it is. Now, inside here is your parameters for the constructors, for the constructor. Understand? Is the parameter. So for example, I will say this one is the string memory, because we are saving our our string inside the memory, um inside memory. Okay, so this one is going to be name, and then you wait age. All right, so
So why didn't you do uint memory?
no, no. We don't do unit memory now. uh, you storage strings are stored as in a temporary data. Okay, strings are used as temporary data, so they are either stored in memory or stored in core data. Okay, so probably later on we'll talk about core data as a memory. All right, so for now just know that our strings are stored in memory because they are used temporarily. Okay, they are only used when they are called, so they are not stored permanently. All right, so it doesn't operate that way with integers and non-integers, so that's why we don't store integers in memory and call data, something like that. We out together. Okay, so now the same way we do call what we are setting our function. Okay, the same way we wrote this function here. Okay, the same way we wrote this function here, that's how we're still going to write the function, but this time we're going to be doing everything in one place. So we are going to be saying that what am I writing? I'm going to be saying the name, this name here, this guy here. All right, so this name is equal to this name here. All right, so I'm going to say this age, the age at the um, state variable, is the same with this age is equal to this age. So we are storing this age inside. So if we deploy, and now you see that once we deploy, you will see that our our contracts, okay, this our deploy here, we have to deploy our contract, does not have deploy as we used to have. It now has these two inputs. So for these contracts to run, we have to put in these two inputs. We have to put in our name and our age. Okay, so we can say Mary is 21. All right. Now, when I click on it, once I save this, the contract will run. All right. So what this one does is that it initializes the contract. It initializes the contract. For it to run, it has to get this input first for it to run. So if this input is not there, it doesn't run at all. Understand? So for us to deploy the contract, we have to fill in the constructor field. Okay. So let's put into practice. Now you see that we have called it, but there is no, you see, there's no output. All right. You see that these are contracts. Let me, okay, I've deleted the contract. So let me just deploy the contract again. Now you see that these are contracts. Okay. These are contracts, but there is no, our balance is 0f. There is no nothing here. Understand? No nothing at all. So let's write a contract. Okay, so we're going to be doing um an inheritance. Okay, so we're going to be inheriting a a contract. So let's say we write another contract, and let's call this contract teacher. Teacher. And let's say this teacher has two inputs. Okay, this teacher has um which name will I use now? Let me use Kate, for instance. Okay, Kate, and Kate is 24. Okay, so we're going to write a function and say get name. All together. So we are going to write a function and say get name. Okay, so this one is going to be public view returns. It's going to be returning string memory. And I said why we are using string memory. Okay, so if I say return name. All right, so there's going to be an error. There's going to be an error here. So this error is going to be like, okay, guy, this thing you are calling, I don't understand. All right. So this thing you are calling, I don't understand. So how do we pass this? She gets. So how do we pass this? So what we are going to do is that, what if I inherit this 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 contract? So what if I inherit this contract? So if I inherit this contract, I'm going to be inheriting everything inside the contract. You get. So if I inherit this contract, so I'm going to be inheriting this contract with this keyword is. So if I say is state is student, all right. So if I say is student, okay. So I'm going to be inheriting everything in this contract. So everything in this contract, the constructor in this contract, the state variables in this contract, I'm going to be inheriting everything here. All together.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so all right, so now you see that I don't have error again. I don't have an error again because I have inherited the properties of this contract. So even if I'm going to write this particular contract in one folder, let's say I created a folder, like a folder in this my store for this project, and I write the first contract and I call the first contract student, and I write another folder and then I said, okay, this contract is for is this, understand? I'm going to, all right, we are going to do that if you are inheriting a contract that is not in the same file. All right, but this contract is the same file, so it's the same thing. You are using this is keywords to inherit contract from another contract. So if I'm going to deploy this, okay, so let me choose the contract I'm deploying. Let's say I'm deploying teacher. Now you see that there is no input. Okay, so if I deploy this and then you see that if I get name, I'm going to get Kate. Okay, so if I get name, I'm going to get Kate. So the same with if I want to get age, for example, let's say I want this guy to return um I want you guys to return integer. All right. So if it's going to return integer, and let me return age, for example, and okay. So let me come to teacher and deploy. You'll see that I'm going to get the age, which is 24. All right. So how is this working? Is because I am using, now you see that in this my contract, I did not declare age here. I did not declare name here. I'm only returning age, but there is no age here. There is no name here. How am I able to return age when age is not in this contract? Is because I am inheriting age from this contract. So every property of this contract now is in this contract. So I can now call this contract in this contract, as you can see. Okay. So what if I don't want to add code it? I don't want to add code Kate. Okay. I don't want to add code Kate. I want to impute it myself. Like, let's say the same way if I am deploying this first contract student, the same way I'm going to be imputing it myself. I want to do that for this teacher contract. So how am I going to do that? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be writing a constructor, but I'm going to be inheriting this constructor here in my constructor. So yeah, constructors, you can inherit constructors. Remember I said that you've already called this contract, so you can easily call this constructor in this contract. Okay, what we are doing in this function is calling the output, using this output to get this output, using this output to get this output. All right, so let's remove this guy. Okay, for instance, and okay, let's write a constructor. So let's call typing. Okay, so we are going to say string memory out. Let's call it n, for instance. That's for name, and then int a for age. Understand? So for us to inherit the constructor in student, we are going to say students, and we are going to bring in these two guys in, and this and this. So let's run this. It's going to work. All right, so that's it. Now remember, let's deploy this teacher contract. All right, to see that before, if we, you see that if we want to deploy the student contract, if we want to deploy the teacher contract, we are presenting, or we are deploying, we are showing hard copy, hard coded names and age. So here we can just put in our name, let's say the light, comma age, let's say 22, for instance, and then we deploy. Okay, so we can see get name. Oh, this old contract, sorry. So say get name. Oh, sorry, 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 sorry. Let's turn this on to name. Let's not confuse ourselves. Okay, so let's deploy. So let's call it the light again. And let's say 22. Let's deploy. So I will come here and get name. What's wrong? I'm deploying the wrong contract again. Sorry. All right. So if I get name, I'll see the light here. All right. So I can write another function to, but we know we can write another function to get age here. So we can write another function to get age. So this is going to be public view returns your here, and this one is going to return age. All right, so let's say, so in this class, no, I'm deploying the wrong contract again. So this Chidera, and this class Chidera is 15 years. All right, so we're going to deploy it, and then we are going to see that if we get age, we're going to get 15. And then if we get name, we're going to see that the 15-year-old person is Chidera. Okay, so that's it for constructors. Now you see that the syntax is very simple. Any questions so far before we go to example 2? Any questions so far? Yes, I
Yes,
can hear.
sir.
Yeah. Let me hear you, please, Chidera.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Say what?
I said explain the constructor line of the teacher. Then why are we using N? Is it like the initial?
L.
Sorry, come again.
Let me get your question. Sorry, please.
I said explain the constructor line. That's one. And then why are we using N and A? Is it like the initial?
Okay. Now, remember I said that solidity is case sensitive. If you've named a variable in one particular function, you can't name that variable again in another particular function because of clash or inconsistency. Okay, so here is already name, so we don't want to name it here again. So we can even come here and say this thing is name. You can name it like this, name, and name it age here. You get it? And come here and name it the same thing, name and age. All right, so you still go. Okay, you don't have a problem.
Sorry, I
Still,
can't see your screen, Sha, but I'm understanding.
yeah, you still go. Please, you see my screen. Oh, don't understand blindly. Just see my screen, I beg, so that you don't answer me question I've explained it before. All right, so this one still go. I think the question was about naming. So this one goes. Okay, why we use the N and A was based on simplicity and for the case of the for the um sake of the class. Okay, so that's what we use. But this one still goes. I see deployment contract is still going to run very well. You understand? Sure gets. So that's it. Now the syntax for constructor. Let me just write it here the way I explained function. So constructor is like this. You write your constructor, and then you write your parameter. Okay, so it is not every constructor that have parameters, so you should know that not every constructors have parameters, but we're using constructors with parameters. So parameters, and then sorry, my bad. Okay, so your curly brace. So inside this curly brace is your query, or should I say your properties, or should I say your inputs, or should I say um how am I going to put it right now? But so inside is your curly brace is where you write the content of your, okay, let me just say content of constructor. You understand? So this is the syntax of a constructor. But don't write it like this in a long this. Okay, now look at this guy. We've called this constructor this. Now this student is like calling the constructor of the student smart contract, okay? But this is the constructor that we wrote in this smart contract, inheriting the properties of the constructor in the student contract. All right, so this is the student contract. This is the constructor we wrote in the student contract, and that's the constructor and these state variables are the only things we wrote in this contract. And then we wrote this particular contract that has function. This particular contract doesn't have function. So we wrote this particular contract that has function, and we wrote a constructor that inherits the property of the constructor in the previous contract, and then we decide to go with it. Understand? And it's running very well because here there is no state variable here, okay, in this contract. Now why are we saying that this constructor is inheriting this the constructor in the student contract? That's because this constructor initializes the contract using the state variables. Okay, now in this contract there is no state variable, but there is something. This contract is still initialized by what? By using the constructor in this contract. We are inheriting the state variable in this contract. We are inheriting everything in this contract so that we can write our function and our contract will behave like this contract through inheritance. Okay, so why all this thing is working is because of this thing guy called is. Okay, this is keyword is the inheritance. Okay, it's the guy that's the key, the wheel that makes teacher to inherit students. Am I understood? Am I understood? Are we together? Are we together?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's go to our second example. Okay. Let's go to our second example. So let's come back to.
Sir, please excuse me.
Yes. Yes, ma. Yes, ma. I can hear you, ma.
I don't know if it's only me, but I cannot see your screen and I've gone out and come in again like 2 times and I'm still not seeing your screen.
Who else is not seeing my screen?
But I can hear you
Who
clearly.
else
I
is
can
not?
see the screen.
Even myself, I can't even see my own screen. Say,
Maybe it's your network, please. Check your network. Screen is showing.
okay, so let's go back to our previous example. Now you see that this guy, we have two inputs here. We have a variable and we have two inputs here, and these two inputs is A and B. Okay, A and B, number one and number two. All right, so we wrote a function that sets number one, and we wrote a function that sets number two. Okay, so what if let me change this guy to operators, the modulus. And change this guy to operators. No, let me change this guy to, let me make it calculator. All right. Uh, let me call it my calculator. All right, so am I confusing myself? Okay, I'm not. Okay, so all right, so we can you can see my this here. All right, now this is, here's my guy here. Okay, let me remove this guy. Okay, no. This guy. All right, so this is a simple calculator. Okay, this is a simple calculator, and it's the same thing with what we wrote here. The same stuff with what we wrote here. Okay, so um all right, so we're going to write, let me remove this guy, let me show you what we did here. All right, so we are going to write a constructor. So instead of the constructor to get this guy, let me bring this guy. I don't want to dirty this code, so let me move this guy to this guy to this side. So what this contract does is that it takes two parameters, all right? It takes two parameters, wrote two function to set number one, and write another function to set number two, okay? And then we start writing functions to operate in these two numbers with set. But first of all, we declared these two numbers here as state variables. So what if we decide to make our code shorter by using constructor? So what the constructor does is that the constructor check, understand, gets these two numbers first before operating on these two numbers altogether. So get these two numbers first before operating on these two numbers. So let me just comment on this guy and no, Z, and then select everything and comment on them. All right, so let me write a constructor. And yes, except that inside the constructor there are what? There are parameters, Abi. The same way we wrote our parameters here. All right, so we're going to be writing our parameters, but this time we're not going to be writing two constructors. We are going to be writing one constructor. So we're going to be saying that int num1, the same thing we did, and then int num2, and then we're going to be writing our statement. We're going to be saying that num1 is equal to num1, and then num2 is equal to num2. Okay, so do I make a mistake? All right, sorry. Okay, sorry. All right, so we have declared our variables. So we're going to be getting, so instead of us to write these two functions, now we're just writing constructor is getting two numbers from me, num1 and num2. So let's say num1 is 15 and num2 is 20, for instance. Okay, so no, normally in the previous this thing, I have to get num1 and then deploy, store, num2 and store. For this one, I can just put two of them and just transact, and the code, this thing we're going to run. And then if I come here and add, you'll see that I have 35. I check modulus, I get 15. Okay, because of these two I have put. So let's say, for example, I make this guy public. I make this guy public. All right, so if I make this guy 20 and I make this guy 30 and deploy, you see that. Okay, let me remove this guy. You see that this guy is 50, there's 20, I said to 20 and to 30. So num1 is 20, num2 is 30. Okay, so that's it. Now it is, if I change the number and deploy, I deploy another new contract. Okay, if I change the number now and redeploy, I'll have a new contract all together. Understand? So that is that for constructors. So that's how we write our constructors. Any question before I give my assignment? Any question? Hmm? So any question?
No.
Okay, so we
People that are in class, people should answer. Oh. You have to go and watch the video later before I have questions.
okay.
I
So
think there's none.
so far you understand the explanation.
I'm just
You
coming
understand the
now. I
explanation,
cannot
but you have to
understand
watch the
this.
video later for you to understand more. Have question.
I didn't come from the beginning,
Okay.
so I don't like. I don't I'm not even understanding what's even going on. At which point I need to start?
You don't have to. Okay, fine. From where we are now, you understand this constructor we wrote.
No.
You don't understand the constructor we wrote.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I think you have to go and watch the video again. But let me just do a brief recap. Okay, constructor is similar to writing this guy. Understand? Initializing. What we are trying to do here is trying to initialize the inputs. Understand? Sorry, the state variable. But this time it's in the contract. When we deploy it, that's when this function will start working. But in constructor, you actually work it for, you actually impute, run the constructor for the contract to run. Understand? If the constructor is not run, the contract will not run. Okay, if the constructor does not run, the contract will not run. Understand? So that is it. Now you see that we deployed. Once I redeploy again now, like watch this, my guy. Once I deploy again now, you see that everything resets. All right, everything resets back to 0, so that I can impute my stuff and get and deploy the contract. Okay. All right. So that is that. All right. So that's it. Now I want us to try something for the weekend. Okay. I want us to play, but please, if constructor is a little bit advanced, okay, but don't be afraid. We've conquered it already. It's very simple, and the syntax is very simple. All right, syntax is very, 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 very simple. Okay, so I want us to play with something. I want us to write a very, very long code for the very simple, simple long code for the weekend. Please and please, I beg us, do not wait. Do not wait till Sunday before you do your assignment. Do not wait till Sunday before you do your assignment. If you can do your assignment this night, do it. Okay. If you can do it tomorrow morning, do it. Do not wait till Sunday evening before you do your assignment. Don't bring back your primary school days. Eh? Don't bring back your primary school days. I know when we're in primary school and secondary school, do our assignments on Monday morning. Please, if you can do it this night, do it. All right. If you have challenge, try and sort it out. Okay. You can't, ask question and I will I will answer. All right. But just try your best. Okay. Try your best. Whatever you can do, do. But do the assignment. Do the please don't do your assignment on Sunday night or Monday morning when you are preparing for work or preparing for school, or you just come back on Sunday or Monday afternoon when you are back from school or back from work in the evening, and then just rush and do it so that you have something to give to the class captain or to the teacher, so that you know that, yeah, no, please, let's not do like that. Okay. Let us let us try our best. All right, let's try our best and do it, and do it on or before deadline. Okay. All right, somebody says WhatsApp is this, writing the code. Okay. Okay. um this is remis.id. Okay, this is a website, this is not an app. This is a website. Okay, this is not an app, this is a website. Remis.id. If you go through our class, you go through introduction to introduction to smart contracts. I think I did a little tour on this. Okay, so you can just go back and check it. But this is remis.id. All right. Okay, it's not an app. Okay. So for this one as exercise, let me call it weekend exercise. Let me call it weekend exercise. All right, so I hope this exercise is going to be just weekend and not wicked. Right, number one. Okay, write a contract. Call it um get numbers. All right. Okay, number two. Instant sheets to state variables. Call them inputs A and input B. Okay. Number three, write a constructor to initialize these two states variables with the with two parameters for it. Okay. Number four. Write another contract. Call it calculator. This contract should inherit the get number contracts. Number five. Okay, sorry, number five. Write a constructor that inherits the constructor in the get numbers contracts. Okay, so here it's going to get very, very interesting. Write a function called check modulo to check the modulo of inputs A and inputs B. Number 7, write a function. Okay, write a requirement for the function so that the denominator, okay, let me use divisor. A divisor is not equal to 0. Okay, so number 8. This is going to be a very long one, but you enjoy it. Write another function called divide numbers. Okay, divide inputs. To divide A and inputs B. Okay, number 9. Write a requirement. Okay, check no. Okay, write a requirement for the divide inputs function so that the divisor, okay, so that A, I'll be a very good examiner. A,
So I hope
the
this code are wrong.
calm down, calm down, calm down. You will enjoy it. Just calm down. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. So that A, the
Say you will enjoy it, or you will still shake in the process.
the the divisor is not greater than the dividend. That's one B. What am I typing? The B, the divisor is, okay, so the divisor is not greater than, uh okay, let me say the dividends must be greater than or equal to the divisor. The divisor should not be 0. And then lastly, the dividend and the divisor must not have a, then lastly, number 10. I said you would like it. You like it. Write a function if input A is an even number or odd number. All right, so this is your assignment. All right, so this is your assignment. The start of this assignment to the end of this assignment, I've lost students in this class. Students are just leaving this class. I don't know why they are leaving the class. I just hope the one that just left now is network. Okay, so um it's very simple. Don't let the numbers to scare you. Okay, don't let the numbers scare you. The reason why I'm actually taking my time to write it step by step is because if you follow it step by step, you will not have issues. You will not have issues. What was writing the constructor to get the numbers, and then you write your normal function to find the modulo, which we did in class, and then write a check whether the modulo is 0, the divisor is 0, and then just write any message, error message there. Okay, so all these requirements you write error message. All right, so the next one you write a function to divide, and then in this divide you are going to write 3 requirements. I'm going to write a requirement to check if the divisor is greater than the dividend. or equal to the divisor. That means you cannot have a fraction where 2 will be divided by 30. No, it must be the numerator must always be higher than the denominator. Okay, so that's it. So you can write your own error message there to check that. And then the second one that is that you should check so that the denominator is not equal to 0, which almost the same thing, the same requirement you wrote for the first, the modulo. The same requirement you just write here. And then the third one is that you will check if they are divisible. Understand? So the divisand and the divisor must not have a remainder, so that you cannot have 20 divided by no by 14. You understand? You cannot have 13 divided by 2. Understand? It's going to flag an error. Both of them must be divided. You understand? They must be divided. Understand? They must not have a remainder. All right. And then lastly, you write a function to check if input A, just input A, if input A is a odd number, or if input A is even number. You understand? Just type input A is even number. Understand? Is if um input A is odd number, just return input A is odd number. So you get. So you, this one you can write an if statement.
So come again, I didn't hear you.
Are we done?
I
No,
don't know because I can't hear him.
we can't hear you. I've been silent for a while.
Sorry, can we still hear him?
Me, I
Mrs.
can't.
Precious, can you hear him?
I can't do. I'm not, it's just you I'm hearing.